Welcome to Good News Gossip. I'm Ricky, and we've got another Bible talk here for you. And this one is going to be about why Christians shouldn't touch other people. So let's get started. For biblical reasons, we are taught to be cautious about touching others. And it's often derived from interpretations regarding purity, spiritual protection, and avoiding temptation, rather than universal prohibition. While the Bible shows Jesus frequently using touch for healing and compassion, interpretations regarding physical contact often focus on setting boundaries to honor God and others. These interpretations will start with sexual immorality. It's found in 1 Corinthians 7:1. The phrase, "it is good for a man not to touch a woman," is often interpreted as advice and to avoid and to be cautious with physical contact between a man and a woman, when they're not married. This is generally viewed as a boundary to avoid temptation and to maintain purity, rather than a ban on physical contact. Maintaining purity and avoiding lust. This is based on the interpretation of the same chapter, that many believe avoiding unnecessary physical touch, particularly between unmarried people, is a way to avoid sexual temptation and or fornication. So next we'll get into touching the anointed. You will find this in Psalms 105:15. The phrase, "do not touch my anointed ones," is often misinterpreted in context. It refers to protecting God's chosen people, the prophets and the patriarchs, and from physical harm. Some modern interpretations use it as a verse to suggest that the church leaders should not be criticized or held accountable, but its original meaning was a warning against harming whom God has chosen. So, just adding a little bit here, this could mean anybody in your congregation. You don't know who God chooses. We're all God's children, but there is anointed children as well, and you might not know who they are. So, best just not to touch anyone, I feel. So, next part, spiritual contamination. You'll find this in 2 Corinthians 6:17. Some interpret the command to touch no unclean things to mean avoiding situations that could defile one's spirit. Then there's also spiritual transfer, laying hands on people. Some traditions warn that laying on the hands should not be done indiscriminately. It's viewed as a way to pass on a blessing or spiritual authority. And in some interpretations, negative spiritual influences can be passed on this way. Some perspectives, particularly within the charismatic traditions, advise caution when laying hands on people, such as during prayer, suggesting that improper or indiscriminate touch can have negative spiritual consequences. Preventing stumbling blocks. The concept that actions should not cause one to struggle with temptation or is an important, and it is noted in 1 Corinthians 8:13. Some believers believe that too familiar touch can indicate a lustful thought, making it a stumbling block for oneself or other people. Avoiding appearance of evil. As mentioned in Thessalonians 5:22, some Christians empathize avoiding situations that could be misinterpreted, aiming to avoid the appearance of immoral behavior in their interactions. Contextual considerations and different types of touch. The Bible makes distinctions between different types of touch, such as a greeting or handling or romantic affection. The culture interpretation of touch varies significantly by culture to culture, and what it is seen as, some it's seen as a respectful or an inaffectionate way, but some it's seen as affectionate in one culture or another, and it may be seen as inappropriate to another. So boundaries. The goal of this is similar to the biblical interpretations. It is to maintain respect and honor and the safety within relationships and to other people. So within Christian theology and practices, the viewpoints on physical touch vary, ranging from strict boundaries to the emphasis on communal affection. Discussions around why some Christians might limit physical touch often centers on themes of purity and avoiding temptation. And also, very importantly, respecting personal boundaries. The key reasons discussed in Christian contexts, these will include: many Christians empathize that touch is a gift from God designed to show affection, warmth, or comfort. Proponents on this view point to the holy kiss mentioned in the New Testament and the loving, non-sexual touch of Jesus. The healthy affection. Many believers view affectionate touch as a reflection of Christian love, a grape, and fellowship, particularly within the context of caring church community. So, balance over legalism. Some argue that avoiding touch altogether is a legalistic approach and fails to recognize the difference between nurturing, familial touch, and lustful contact. So the consensus is that not that Christians should never touch anyone, but rather physical contact should be approached with wisdom, respecting boundaries, and avoiding sexual immorality. So, one of my things is with touching people, especially in fellowship. If somebody's cool with being touched, especially when it comes to a male touching a female, for example, if they want their hand shaken, they will offer their hand for you to shake. If they haven't made that gesture that they want to touch your hand, you're best not to touch them. Yes, you can fellowship with them and talk with them, but realistically, you don't need to touch them. So what more can I say? But, I think the most important part of this talk is the talk about boundaries. People have physical limitations. Some people call it the physical bubble. Some people like a personal bubble around them that they don't like other people in. I am aware of this. I had a very large personal bubble when I was younger. I didn't like people coming anywhere near me, except for my girlfriend. I don't know why. I just had that, But and nowadays I'm much different. I do like people in my personal space. I don't mind it. It doesn't really worry me at all. But some people do. And this is what this talk says about respecting physical boundaries. Some people just don't like to be touched. And quite frankly, you don't need to touch them. Touch their minds. Touch their minds with your words. Touch their minds and their hearts with your fruits from being a good Christian person. That's all you need to do. And one day they might put their hand out and want to shake your hand or have a hug. Respect is earned. And boundaries are not meant to be broken. Boundaries are there for a reason. They're a boundary. So I hope this helps you to find some understanding about how the Christian belief looks at touching. We are very modest in our ways and the way we dress, the way we act. The anti-lust thing is a big thing. We don't like evil things. Evil things are the 10 Commandments, and the commandments are Jesus' list in the New Testament. So if you want to know more about that, you can grab a New Testament. If you need one, I can send you one. If you just email goodnewsgossip777@gmail.com, I can send you out a Psalms, Proverbs, and New Testament Bible for free. Anyway, God bless you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And you'll all be in my prayers tonight. And like I say at the end of all my videos, it's not our way. It's Yahweh!